Welcome to Ending the Stupid Gender War. This show is only for intelligent, mature, non-ADHD, non-doom scrolling people only. So if you fall into those categories, please leave now because I don't think you have what it takes to pay attention. Definitely not even hang out to the end. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and let us go ahead and begin, shall we? Straight to the point as always. What do we have for today's gender battle in this stupid gender war? I don't know. Maybe we have some valid points or some stupid points. Usually it's one or the other. Sometimes it's a blend. What can I say? All right, so it looks like the topic for today is going to be divorce. You know, is it righteous? Is it just? Let's find out. Ladies first. Number one with the women. The career sacrifice receipt. You call it alimony, a payout. Okay, so you call alimony a payout. I call it back wages. I spent a decade following your career across the country, raising your children. Well, they're your children too. What are you talking about? All right. Hosting your colleagues, managing your home. Okay, well, it's your home too, right? All unpaid labor that let you work 80-hour weeks and become the successful man you are today. All right, she's a little bit harsh here. I mean, she's got a point, but a lot of attitude. I'm not sure if I'm vibing with this woman here. My earning potential was sacrificed so yours could soar. Now you want to walk away with everything because my contributions didn't come with a W-2? The system isn't punishing you. It's definitely paying me for the years you couldn't afford my salary. Her point is that alimony isn't a gift or a penalty. It's deferred compensation for the invisible unpaid domestic labor that enabled the husband's career growth and wealth accumulation during the marriage. Okay, look, fair enough. She didn't have to be all, with an attitude, but she probably had a horrible experience with the husband, right? We're talking about divorce here, people. It's ugly, no matter how you slice it. Alimony. Is it justified? Yes, it is. So guys out there, stop being stupid saying that it's not. Quit your bitching, because it is justified. If she works her ass off at home, helping the kids, keeping the house, a housewife has a lot to do. You can have lazy housewives, but a good housewife, it sounds like she was responsible. And she details it. I'm sure there's more details that she's omitting from this for the sake of simplicity. But yes, if she's going to end up on the streets, no matter if you call the divorce or she calls the divorce, or if it's amicably between both of you, mutual decision, if it's mutually decided, it just doesn't matter, no matter how you slice it. If she, quote unquote, sacrificed all those years to be a great mom, a great wife, yes, that's where alimony comes in, because she's literally going to be tossed out into the streets. And you're going to be fine because you have your career. Now, that's the tricky part, isn't it? In a divorce, it doesn't really matter whose fault it was. Both of you have to accept responsibility for the marriage. But yes, she is well entitled to alimony. I don't care how you slice it, even child support payments, because it's both of your responsibilities. That's number one. Now, number two, whether she deserves it or not, as far as, she called the divorce, all of that emotional garbage, it doesn't matter in this case. We're talking about money here, okay? And she's entitled to it. So you can leave the emotions, at the front door. Nobody's going to be looking at that in this case. Now, all the hard work that she's done, that is a full-time job if you think about it. It is. It's a real shame. Even back in the black and white days, housewives never got enough credit. Raising children the correct way. Being a great wife. Cooking, cleaning, helping to raise the kids. Even in the beginning when they're little babies and then toddlers, it's a ton of responsibility. The guy, he just goes to work, comes back and pays the bills. Maybe mows the lawn or whatever. A few things, and then, hey, you plop yourself on the sofa and watch baseball games on TV. It's kind of stereotypical, but that's pretty much what it was for the guy who's working, supporting the family. So, yeah, times have changed. Dual working parents, dual working relationships. You guys got to make it work. But in the end, if this is the setup that you have, she's not working so that she can attend to the house and the kids, even if you don't have kids. If she's going to be the housewife, it is a responsibility. Yes. I mean, but you agreed to that setup, right? So don't start bitching and whining because you agreed to that marriage setup. You guys out there who are complaining about this, I don't want to pay alimony. I don't think it should exist. Well, why don't you put yourself in her high heels for a moment? And don't lie saying, no, I stood. No, stop it. You would take alimony, okay? Number 2, the economic entrapment escape. I stayed in a dead marriage for 5 years because I couldn't afford to leave. I had no savings, no recent work history, and no access to the wealth I helped create. Prenups aren't protection. When you're holding all the cards and I'm signing under the pressure of a wedding date, and a man who tells me it's just a formality, you want me to bet my entire future on your promise, but you won't risk a single asset of yours on yours. That's not equality. That's a hostage negotiation. So her point is that prenups signed under imbalanced power dynamics, especially when one spouse has sacrificed career momentum, can become tools of entrapment rather than fair pre-agreement. Look, you guys can avoid this entire mess had you guys have gotten it right the first time you guys got together, right? That's why I discourage dating, because you're rushing the process of falling in love eventually, hopefully. Become friends. Then you guys can talk about going out on quote-unquote dates, taking things to a more intimate level, maybe falling in love, going at a nice snail's pace, not rushing anything like a freaking rabbit tripping themselves all over, the place in the woods. Because that's what these couples do. And then they moan and groan and complain about it when things come up to this level and say, oh, prenup or no prenup, they're just going to start arguing about all the little details. Yeah, prenups are smart. Prenuptial agreements, yeah, they're a smart choice. There's no hard feelings. If you have a lot of assets to lose, that is. But if you don't have a lot of assets to lose, ideally, you guys should trust each other 100%. That's what should happen. No prenups. But unfortunately, we live in a highly uneducated and immature world, don't we? Highly immature. And so you guys like to take gambles out there. Shallow-minded thinkers who don't want to pay attention to the details. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay, it is what it is. And then you start complaining 20 years later, 10 years later, or whatever the case is, that, oh, I made a mistake, or it's your fault. And you guys playing the blame game, pointing at each other till you're both skeletons pointing at each other. It's ridiculous. It really is. So yeah, it is a form of entrapment in a way if he is in charge of that agreement. But yeah, it goes hand in hand with number 1, all the work that she's put into the marriage. Does that amount to anything? Now, I will say this. I stayed in a dead marriage for 5 years. 5 years isn't a long time, because I couldn't afford to leave. Okay. That's a total failure right there. You guys can't even stay married for 5 years. But there are far worse cases than this. They were with each other at least 10 years. That's pretty mighty significant. I'm not saying 5 years is nothing, but come on, people. We know 10 years, 20 years, that's a lot more weight than 5 years. You can shrug that one off, right? It is what it is. I am for prenups, but they're not mandatory. Ideally, you shouldn't have to have prenups unless you both are rich or one of you is rich and you guys kind of fear each other, whatever, maybe a safety net. But you guys both have to agree to it. It is what it is. It's all about, making up your guys' damn minds. That's all it is. Number 3, the children are not a cost center. You frame child support as writing a check to my ex-wife. I frame it as keeping your children housed and fed. Well, that's what it's supposed to be. Hence the term child support, right? You act like the money disappears into my pocket. Well, sometimes it does. There's plenty of toxic women out there who don't deserve to be called real women. They'll take the money. I've seen this firsthand. Multiple times. That money's not going to the child. They'll starve their daughter, their son. They'll take, I don't know, pretty much all of it. It's really sick. So that does happen. But okay, let's benefit of the doubt. She's saying you act like the money disappears into my pocket. But it's groceries, school supplies, health insurance. Yeah, this is ideal, right? And the roof over their heads. And it's so much more. The roof, the same roof you walked away from. You're not paying me, you're contributing to the ongoing expense of raising humans we made together. Yeah, I mean, ideally, if she's being, 100% honest and factual, then this is correct. Except now you get weekends, and I get the 24/7 math problem you call greed. Her point is that child support is routinely framed as a transfer to the mother rather than a shared cost of child rearing, erasing the mother's unpaid labor and the children's needs from the equation entirely. All right, well, it's a stupid guy if this is the case, right? I mean, he can bitch all he wants, but the fact is she is using it to pay for the kids' well-being and maybe recreational too. I mean, if you guys are going to itemize things, what exactly are you using the money for? I don't think they have that. They might incorporate that in the future. Who knows? Lawmakers, who knows exactly. But that's kind of like spying on people's bank accounts to see exactly where the money's going. And it should be going to the kids. Be that as it may, it's both of you guys' responsibility regardless to continue raising those children, whether you're separated or not. It doesn't matter. Don't be despicable and leave the kids behind because now they got to pay the price of your stupid failure to keep things together. I'm not saying to stay in a toxic relationship or marriage for the kids. Don't do that. If you guys just can't make it work because you guys both failed, then okay, you guys can you can divorce, you can separate, even if you have kids. I'm all for that. No need to live miserably. Never stay for the kids. Don't do that. That's a stupid move. Now, if you guys have to because you're forced into some type of economic dead end, where you guys have no other alternative, so be it. You guys have to suffer, or one of you have to suffer, I get it. But again, that's both of your guys' faults, isn't it? So don't go around blaming one or the other. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. Both of you have to accept equal responsibility when kids are involved. Heck, even when kids aren't involved. Accept responsibility for your own actions and failure in this case. We're talking about divorce all across the board. You failed. No matter if it was her fault, your fault, or both of your guys' faults. All right, let's go ahead and shift gears to see what the guys have to say about divorce. Number one, the perpetual penalty box. All right, getting sporty with it. I pay alimony to a woman who hasn't worked in 15 years. Lives with her new boyfriend. Who cares what she does? Who cares? Just shut up, dude. Just shut it. I don't care if she gets married to another guy, she starts dating another guy. She's no longer your business. For whatever reason. Stop it. And still collects my paycheck like I'm her retirement fund. Well, in a way you are. Too bad. You messed up, right? You should have known better. That's not fair. Stop whining. There were red flags everywhere, okay? But you didn't want to pay attention to them. Yeah, but what if, okay, there are special cases where you didn't see it coming. It was completely from left field. It's still your fault. Because most likely you rushed the process of falling in love with this person, or you don't even know what love is. Maybe you guys just were good companions, and that just doesn't last an entire lifetime, does it? Oh, we got along. Well, then why didn't you just get a pet dog if you wanted companionship? True love lasts forever, you idiots. When you master true love, this garbage, this crap will never happen. It won't. Because when you form an unbreakable bond together, both of you, with maturity, with respect, wisdom, real intelligence, it's unbreakable. Oh, that doesn't exist, and that's why you screwed up. That's why you will screw up in the future if it hasn't happened already. Because your attitude sucks. Your belief is absent. So your marriage is going to suck. It's going to crash and burn. It's only a matter of time. Not if, but when. All right, so let's continue to see if he's just going to keep complaining here or say something that's actually worth talking about. All right, so still collects my paycheck like I'm in a retirement fund, blah, 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 blah. The marriage is over. Yeah, no stuff, Sherlock. But my financial obligation never ends. Which sucks to be you, right? What can I say? You call it fair. I call it debtor's prison for the crime of stop it. Out earning my ex-wife. Stop it. My success isn't an asset we built together after the divorce. It's a liability that follows me like a parole officer. Sucks to be you. What can I say? You should have known better, right? Should have made it work? Or you should have chose a better partner? Or maybe it was your fault that the marriage ended. I don't know. You tell me. His point is that lifelong alimony, especially in cases without children, are where the recipient has remarried or cohabited. It doesn't matter. Who cares what she does with their life? It's no longer your concern, buddy. Transforms a temporary support mechanism into permanent financial servitude, disconnected from actual need. Now, it depends. It depends. From what I believe, I could be wrong, but these payments, I believe, I'm not sure about this, but if the law is correct, and I'm correct, that you're no longer obligated if she earns a certain amount of money after the divorce. I could be wrong about this, but that would be really fair, right? But even if that's not the case, for whatever wild reason, I'm not a lawyer, I don't keep up with the law, but from what I know, I think that's the case, that you don't have to anymore. If she starts earning a big salary, she can sustain herself from that point onward. Like I said, I could be wrong, but that's a fair world, right? But regardless, just like alimony we talked about with the women over there, yeah, that's a righteous case. If she was a housewife and then the divorce happens and she has no means of sustaining her survival in this life, then alimony is justified. You guys failed. So then you guys have to literally pay for the consequences. One of you, at least. So if you don't see that as righteous, that's too bad. You know, we're all governed. We're all domesticated. We all have to follow the law, the written word of the land. If you don't like it, I don't know, move to North Korea. Number 2, the inalienable asset. My ex-wife was awarded the house, half my retirement. This is another too bad case scenario. And permanent custody of children she spends most of her time resenting. Okay, I mean, is it unjust for her to have full custody? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. The family court didn't divide our assets. It redistributed mine to fund her lifestyle upgrade. Who cares, right? What matters is, do you have to pay yes or no? Don't call it an upgrade, right? If there were any other contract, the party that initiated the breach wouldn't get the bonus package. But marriage is the only agreement where the leaver gets the leverage and the payer is presumed guilty until proven bankrupt. His point is that the legal and cultural presumption often favors a lower earning spouse, statistically the woman. Well, I mean, you know, there's inflation, there's, you know, her living on her own, maybe stuck with the kids, or, you know, because she's responsible for them, right? Full custody, hello, so she needs more money, right? I mean, if she can't sustain herself, if that's what the judge declared, then look, I'm not the judge. I'm not the law. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying, if you don't like it, go somewhere else, right? I mean, I don't know. You can't escape this, obviously, though. But it is what it is. You could avoid all this nightmare had you have gotten love correct the first time. Oh, I don't want to talk about love. I don't like talking about relationships. Well, then you're going to mess up and end up in this type of scenario if you're gullible and foolish enough, because you were stupid, right? You made stupid choices with stupid women, you know? Maybe if they're not stupid women, then you were the stupid one. Maybe you both were stupid. But stupidity is going to get you in these little garbage piles here. That's what happens. Child support, alimony, you know, half my retirement, blah, 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 blah. It's your fault, man. So I don't know what you're complaining about. And then, you know, a lot of these goofballs will say, oh, women, you know, this, and it's too late. You messed up. Now you have to literally pay the price. Whose fault is that? It's yours, right? And it doesn't matter, once again, if it's her fault, like, oh, well, she's the abusive one and she ruined our marriage. You still accepted her. You said, I do. And you signed the dotted line. I'm sorry, man, but that's reality. You got to keep your head in reality. Not in this hate all women, you know, childish behavior mindset that you have going on. Or being pissed off all the time. and just being bitter like Scrooge 24/7. You accepted the contract. You thought you loved her. You thought she loved you. But had you have done better from the very beginning, none of this would have happened. So stop moaning about it. All right. So let's continue this garbage here. His point is that the legal and cultural presumption often favors... Okay, we know that. Creating a moral hazard and a punitive outcome for the higher earner regardless of the circumstances of separation. I don't know, man. Hire a better lawyer. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. You know, the court of law is often a gamble. You pull the lever. It's like a slot machine. Who knows? The judge at the end of the day, male or female, I don't know. Blame it on something, right? But it is what it is. Don't get yourself in quicksand in the first place. Number 3, the parentheses parent. I fight for 50-50 custody, but the default assumption is that she's the real parent. Well, you know, come on. Let's be a little bit honest here. Little kids, they always run to mommy, right? Daddy's cool. Daddy can be cool, but ultimately mommy, right? It's in nature, for crying out loud. You know, the mother duck. The father duck is somewhere around, okay, but where do all the little ducklings go to, right? With mommy. I mean, so don't complain about nature. That's even true with nature, you know, when it comes to human beings. You know, I was around my mom a lot, and I had a mother and father growing up. It all went south eventually, but started off kind of sort of decent, even though she was a abusive mother pretty much the entire time. I didn't learn about what the hell abuse was until later on. You know, too little, too late. And then I found out the rest of my family was corrupt too. So, but you know what? I managed those difficult times. You jumping into a marriage that you should have known better, well, that's poor management, isn't it? But it is what it is. Don't complain that, you know, the kids generally should be with their mother. But what happens when you have a toxic mother and the judge awards full custody to that toxic mother? Well, I guess you guys have to have that emergency number on speed dial in case something abusive may happen. But it is what it is. You know, generally speaking, yes, mothers are going to be generally awarded custody because that's just human nature. Now, if it's proven that she's a dangerous mother to be giving custody over and you can prove that, well, then have at it. Otherwise, it is what it is. So, yeah, you can hate the law. You can hate the legal, you know, procedures, the justice system. Sometimes criminal justice is justice for the criminals. It's not for the innocent. But like I said, don't get yourself into quicksand in the first place, and you won't sink to the bottoms of the earth, right? The hells of the earth, right? You don't start nothing, there won't be nothing, right? But I'm not saying don't go get married. I'm just saying know who the heck you're marrying in the first place way before talking about having kids. And don't get married just because you guys have a kid together. That's another no-go too if you guys aren't really in love. All right, let's go ahead and continue here. So, all right. By default, assumption is that she's the real parent and I'm the babysitter. No. You're still the father. Stop it. I pay for half their lives, but get them every other weekend and holidays divided like war spoils. Okay. My children don't need my money. They need my presence. No, they also need money. You know, come on, man. Every kid needs clothes, school supplies, extracurricular activities, everything under the sun, pretty much, to have a meaningful life. Otherwise, it's going to be a very boring, lonely life. They can't even enjoy being a kid. Nothing wrong with poor kids, you know, poor economy. That's, you know, with parents who can't afford much. Nothing wrong with that, but if you can spoil them, you should, but always teach them, you know, great gratitude and respect. How to respect others and have a sense of honor. That way they don't end up making the same stupid mistakes you did. But the system values my paycheck more than my parenting and calls it in the best interest of the child. Well, it is. It is. The best interest of my child is having 2 equal parents. It doesn't always work that way. All right, buddy? Not a mother with full custody and a father with a Venmo account. His point is that family courts often default to maternal custody, reducing fathers to financial providers rather than equal parents, reinforcing the very gender roles men are simultaneously criticized for upholding. Okay, well, yes and no, right? It's an ugly situation, but you got yourself there. You know? It's a game of survival. Now you have to pay the price. I know I've said that a bunch of times in this show, but that's the spine of this entire show right there. This is what happens when you take a channel like mine not seriously. When you say, yeah, whatever. This is the garbage that's going to happen in your life in the future. Even if you don't get married, you're going to end up with unwanted pregnancy or an abusive woman who's going to take everything from you one way or another. You're going to make all these wrong decisions. I'm not saying that I'm going to solve all your problems. I'm saying that I'm here to help. You don't want my help? Fine. Go ask your friend, your family member, somebody, I don't know, an acquaintance that you trust more than myself. I really don't care. It's your life, not mine. I'm good. Are you? Because if you're not good, this is what awaits you in the future for having such a stupid attitude. Now, what's my stance in this case? Well, it is what it is. I've said it before. You know, with the last part here, that's kind of interesting. Reducing fathers to financial providers. Well, you're always going to be a financial provider if you're the sole income earner in the relationship, in the marriage, even when you guys divorce. Okay, it is what it is. Is she going to be able to work and sustain herself? Yes or no? If the answer is no, well, guess who has to pull the weight? You do. So stop complaining, man. Really, you got to move on. You know, I know guys that have, you know, they're paying 5 different, you know, child support. It's like, how did you get into that position? You know, talk about how irresponsible you have to be to land yourself in such a crappy position. Yeah, guys are just complaining about stuff that, you know, they did it to themselves. And it all starts with a bad attitude, with negligence. You know, you're like, oh, you know, we had great sex. I think we should get married because I like you a lot. You know, there's so much more to love than that. You know, it's important, but that's not everything. Oh, we get along. Okay, do you guys see yourselves getting along 10, 20 years from now for an entire lifetime? Yes or no? You guys got to check these blocks, man. It's way more than that, too. That's why I spent over 800 hours writing my book. You know, I'm like, oh, okay, if it was that simple, then wouldn't even bother writing it, right? I mean, but people these days, they're just so shallow. And then they decide to have kids together to make a bad situation worse. An uncertain situation even more uncertain. They say they're sure about each other, but in reality, they're kind of a little nervous about a few things that they should have tied up in the beginning to ensure that it was going to be a perfect lifelong relationship. But no, it's too much work. Too much work. They don't want to think about it. You get what you deserve at that point. So that's all for today's show. Be sure to binge watch all of these awesome shows right here. If you want to be a guest speaker, if you have the guts, sign up as a free member on my website, payhip.com/yourquestforlove, and we'll talk about it. Much love, everybody.